Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stoked, the ultimate Star Trek Online podcast. This is episode 51, and we're right here in a Defari jail. My name is Chris.
And my name is Jeremy. Now, I want to apologize to you guys right up front because I know that a lot of you tune in to watch math. I'm sorry, we still don't have a math episode because I'm a big, fat, lazy
Say what?
SOB. But I want to make it up to you guys because I've been getting a question a lot regarding something that's a little bit mathy.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd call it mathy, but it is a little controversial.
Yeah, and that is basically hacking the UI and modifying the game client via third-party methods.
Now, this is definitely a no-no on Cryptic's list. You're
Absolutely.
not supposed to do this, and they officially say do not do that.
In fact, don't even talk about it. If you go to their forums and try to get advice on it, you will be shut down in a major way. But, we're not Cryptic.
No, and a lot of you have asked.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Just a little bit. And mainly, the biggest one that I want to point out to you is there is a site out there dedicated to this very topic.
Now, we should say there's no default mechanisms to modify the STO client. There's not like an API built in that you can legitimately use, and any modifications done to the Star Trek Online client could very likely be undone by a patch.
Yeah, and furthermore, any modifications that you make to the client are very likely to break it and make it unable to run. If you do this to yourself, Cryptic's not going to help you out. You're going to have to go in and reinstall or fix it yourself. So do so at your own risk. Under every circumstance, you might be borking yourself. So
okay. All right, so what's this
So the
website?
name of the site is STOadvanced.com. That's STO-advanced.com.
Okay.
And this guy, well, I'm just going to flat out say it. This guy is something of a genius when it comes to hacking this game. He has got pre-made mod packages.
Ooh.
You can change your mouse cursor to something that's like bigger and gold. So a lot of people have trouble seeing the default.
I do here in the studio because we have lights above us and they reflect on the screen, and I often lose the mouse cursor.
Right. So, that's a basic modification. But again, violation of the terms of service to install that on your own system. Now, the thing is though, it shows up on your client only. No one's ever going to know that you're running this.
It's a local modification.
Unless you tell them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other side of this, though, is if they ever come out with some sort of mod that gives you an edge in the game, like makes it easier for you
now
to
that's
blow
immoral.
people up. It is. That is cheating, and I do not approve.
No, and honestly, and like for us, we don't bother with this stuff because we want to run the game in a stock state so that way we can talk about it on the show in a stock state. Because if we're playing it with some sort of modifications that you guys don't have, that doesn't give us a clear perspective.
Absolutely.
So the stuff you've shown, the mouse mod, that's not really a edge up. That just makes it so you can see your dang cursor.
And one of the other mods I want to bring up is they do have a modification on their site to change the game into a first-person shooter when you're in ground combat.
Oh, yeah, we've talked a little bit about that.
But, a couple of you actually sent in suggestions for that when we talked about improving ground combat several episodes back. Mm-hmm. I saw a video of this in action, and it actually looks like it's a detriment to you playing the ground combat because it's so situational, being able to see behind you. The third person really adds something.
Rotating that camera around is key,
mm-hmm.
especially when you have guys coming up on you from behind.
But if you really want to try it out, there's a complete mod package that these guys have available, including tutorials on how to install it and how to use it.
Yep.
So if you want to check it out, that is the beginning of modifications. Now, in the future, they might come out with some way for people to be able to modify it themselves. There is a quote that I've included in here from Code Ranger, basically saying that the coding is available to be modified on the client. But again, he lists all the same disclaimers, is that it's probably going to break your client.
Yeah.
They can't help you with it because it's not officially supported, and right now it's a violation of the TOS. So
that seems like something that they've built. You could build the client with the thought maybe someday down the road when we reach a certain maturity point, we might want to turn this on, and so we want some of the fundamental hooks to be there. I mean, obviously it's there if people have figured out how to turn on first-person mode and they figured out how to change your mouse cursor. I mean, obviously
first-person
they're there.
mode is really just a camera control and a remapping of some of your commands.
Okay.
Now, that's the other thing, is that you can't make the UI at this time do something that it doesn't already do.
Mm-hmm.
So really all you're doing is reskinning. I don't think that's a real big deal, but officially they can't support it in any way. So that's all we've got on UI hacking. Now I do want to mention though, if you just can't get enough of me, if you can't get enough of math, many of you might know I do a live You Got Math on STOradio.com every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific.
STO-radio.com.
STO-radio.com.
And so 3 p.m. Pacific, it's a live radio stream that we also rebroadcast generally over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/live.
Yeah. So either way, you can tune in and check that out.
And now, while we're talking about in the theme of changing things in the game, there's been some news about some targeting control changes that might be coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I figured I'd put these in since I was just talking about first-person shooter mode. Now,
and we have probably heard one of the early questions I'd say often on new viewers is, guys, what am I doing wrong with the targeting system? I mean, like, people will frequently state it like they almost think they've made a mistake.
Yeah.
So Stahl made a little post about it.
Now, it's nothing fantastic. He hasn't even given us any details about it, but he basically said new targeting controls are in testing and should be included in the November patch, the big Season 3 patch.
Sounds like more and more things I hear about Season 3. It sounds like Season 3 will have a lot of polish.
Yep.
I mean, we know we're talking about possibly seeing a revamped sector space. They've been talking about possibly seeing
early UGC tools and stuff like that.
So Season 3 could be a lot of awesome in a lot of different ways, even if it's not a ton of new mission content. Speaking of new mission content, though, this is
Lord howdy.
This is the third week of the weekly episode series.
And, no matter where you look on the internet, these things are getting rave reviews.
Yeah, I've been specifically monitoring the STO forums to kind of judge, see if there's been some hate or what's been going on in there. And, there's going to be some comments, some suggestions, things like that. Some areas people think need improvement. But people, all in all, digging these episodes.
Now, I do have a slight criticism for this most recent one. Cold Comfort is the one, and this was basically a diplomatic mission version.
Yeah.
Well, before I get into my negative, I do want to mention, very cool that there is now a daily diplomatic mission in the Deferi sector that you can get after you finish Cold Comfort. So if you're like me and still need to crank out more diplomatic experience and aren't having any luck in exploration, now you can get a regular helping on a daily basis.
Now, the way you get the diplomatic XP, it kind of threw me because you don't just automatically get it when you complete that episode.
No, there's actually, that episode has a choice included with it.
And and then at the end of the episode, you have to meet up with somebody in space, right?
At the end of Cold Comfort, in order to claim, you have to talk to the ambassador. Yeah,
so just so you know, if you complete it, because one of the things that was going on a lot in Zone Chat was, I didn't get how come I didn't get diplomatic XP? How come I didn't? A lot of that was scrolling through, and people was like, you guys, you got to talk to so-and-so. And I forget his name at the moment, but
Ambassador
he's orbiting the same system that you just beamed out from. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, but the daily mission actually has a choice involved with it, where you go and confront a Breen patrol, and you have the choice of either paying them to buy the slaves back, which is that's how you get your diplomatic experience, or you can just blow them up.
That's awesome.
And you get combat experience.
I have not seen that.
It's great, and it's a daily, so you can go out there and make your choice on a daily basis.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really great.
Huh.
Now, back to Cold Comfort.
Okay.
Because this, again, I mentioned was a diplomatic mission. It's basically got two major phases to it. The first is the medical phase, where you go through and diagnose. I loved that. As playing a science officer that's kind of a doctor myself, I got a kick out of it, diagnosing them and then finding the right medicine to treat them and everything like that.
I liked it too.
Loved it
too. And I was playing with two other people, and then about 40 people or 30 people in the live stream, and half of them were probably playing too. And I think overall, all the feedback was pretty positive on that part.
For that section, yeah. The next section has some issues. The next section, you have to go down and interrogate a Breen prisoner that's being kept in the prison that you see behind us right now.
Right.
And I just felt the writing wasn't up to snuff. I think, you're supposed to not insult his honor and something else, or he'll just cut off and you'll fail the mission. I failed the mission once, and I read very carefully. There are people in our fleet that failed it 3 or 4 times. Very common to fail it twice.
Now, I want to make a disclaimer here. I don't want to be. We're not playing the douche card, because we've been on this show before and we have said make failable missions, make missions failable, make them failable. But there's a difference when it's failed because the way the text is written.
Yeah. If I failed something because I was outgunned in combat,
right?
Absolutely. Give me that.
Their point would be, well, we wrote it so that way there'd be the possibility of tricking you to fail. Like that's a balance I'm sure they want to walk.
Sure, but I thought that I answered everything correctly. And come on, I'm not a stupid guy. Well, sometimes, but not usually.
I failed it once, but when I failed, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is gonna fail it, but I just want to. I can't quite tell for sure. I'm gonna do it, and then I failed.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say this though. Let's back up for a second.
Okay.
Because one of the things that this just did is it just laid down some Star Trek canon.
Oh, yeah.
They just established some canon with the Breen. First of all, expanding on the honor system of the Breen, and that you don't want to taunt them, and also giving a lot of more texture to a Breen character. Dr. Tran or whatever his name was in the jail cell that you eventually talked to, giving him a lot of depth, that he wasn't just a cold killer. Right. Cold killer. And I thought that was good because it's expanding on that race in a weekly episode.
Right.
So what we just did is we just had a real Star Trek moment in STO, and I think that's extremely important. I'm looking forward to every Saturday, like it's a new episode of Star Trek.
So am I.
A lot of people in the STO forums, a lot of people in Jupiter Force, a lot of people are saying that.
Yep.
And then just like we would get in a Star Trek episode, we just expanded a little morsel, just like a little morsel we got about the Klingons in DS9 on every other episode. A little morsel we get about the Vulcans in episodes. We just got a little morsel about the Breen. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
It
I
worked
totally
well.
agree. I totally agree. The
Happy
story,
boy.
despite the writing faux pas that I'm
on board with you on that.
The overall story arc though was strong, and it progressed the story in a great way. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and spoiler a little bit here.
Okay.
At the end of the mission, they kind of lay the groundwork for possibly getting a Breen bridge officer.
I know.
And now we haven't heard anything about that being a possibility, but how much do you want a Breen bridge officer?
Like 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And also, I thought the reward was kind of funny because I got, at the end of the mission, you get a reward of some like food, and it's kind of a funny food you hadn't seen before. And you're like, oh, okay. And I guess you can also buy these in the Defari social.
Yeah,
area.
there's now a Ferengi merchant at the Defara social sector that sells a few.
If you didn't get the end result is if you do that right and you have either there's two types of tribbles you can get.
Well, there's actually several types that have been confirmed. The only ones that I've heard are called Matson and Rivera.
Yeah,
Rivera is the Best Buy tribble.
All right, so RIV and MAT tribbles. If you can search the exchange for those to find those, and then you keep that Defari mission reward and one of those types of tribbles in your inventory, and when you cross an hour of gameplay, you get a cool new Breen tribble.
Because it'll eat this special food.
I guess it's Breen food. It's right?
Cold tubers?
I don't know.
Snow tubers.
But you basically get a what do they call it? A chrono tribble or something?
Cryo
tribble. That's a really cool reward.
If you pet it, it's got a little cloud of coldness that comes off of it. It's cute. I was kind of hoping that when you pet it, it sounded like a Breen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no. But it does give you cold resistance, which is something everybody has been asking for since the first Breen mission came out.
Which is a great way to roll it in. It's a fun mission reward. And now it's actually going to make my gameplay with the Breen. Hopefully it's going to improve it. We'll see if that actually happens.
Improve your gameplay.
Yeah.
As if.
I don't know if that can be done.
Oh, another thing I wanted to mention about that Ferengi is he also has a chance every hour to have cryo grenades for sale. If you've already used yours that were the reward for the first one.
Yep.
And you want to get more of those, just go check back with him every once in a while.
And then also, if you're just kind of catching into the weekly episodes, now we're only 3 in now, but obviously more are going to be rolling out. And if you want to stay on top of all of those, we've got a weekly episode guide over in our show notes, which you can check out. And it's a handy little walkthrough of what they've done so far. And
this also includes future episodes.
Yeah.
If you look down at the bottom, this already has info about the cold case and cold storage, which are going to be the next two episodes.
I am excited. I'm being a little Star Trek geek right now.
They don't have a cold killer.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I am such a geek right now. It really feels like I'm getting Star Trek on a weekly basis, and
I
I've
agree.
missed that for so long.
I'm going to go on record as saying that STO is finally living up to some of its potential with these episodes. I think for a long time we have been waiting for episodic content that pulled us into the Star Trek universe, and I think they're finally hitting their stride.
And you know what? Again, I was there, and the sector space was crowded. Our fleet roster was packed. The social areas were happening. I was getting so many tells during the game that I actually turned off my tells because there's so many people online. It was a happening place. So it's obviously going over great.
Yeah.
All right.
And actually, speaking about fleets, we teased last week that we were going to do our community feedback all about fleets.
Let's do that. Let's get into the community feedback. Now, it is time for the community feedback segment, and you guys know we love these, and we love hearing your ideas, and we hope maybe even some of it makes its way down into the ears of Cryptic, and some of it actually might even find its way into the game. Now, we've got a new question for you this week, and we thought we'd prime your brain pump with a little editorial first.
Now, we all know that communities and socialization in this game is very important. After all, it is an MMO. That stands for massively multiplayer.
Multiplayer,
That means you're supposed to play with other people.
Right.
Right. So our question for this week is basically trying to get some input on how to make socializing side of it more important to the core gameplay involved. More specifically, how could Cryptic provide incentive to either create or join a fleet?
Yeah, because I think we're both of the opinion that a healthy fleet economy almost, or ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, is an extremely positive influence on the game, because what you have is a bunch of really dedicated fans who are all very positive, sharing their experience about the game together, and that brings the game up. That brings the social interaction to a higher level, sets the tone.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I think that catering to your people that are already in love with you in some way and making them a stronger, tighter-knit community is always going to make your product a better product.
Yeah, the people that are most passionate about your game are the people that are going to do things like podcasts that reach millions of people, billions of people, trillions of people watch these podcasts.
Across the universe.
Okay, we're exaggerating, but you get our point.
Well, we exaggerate like a billion times a day.
But they do set up, things like websites to help with the game, and communities and forums. I mean, legitimately, it does help increase traffic to the game and the positive buzz about the game.
Right.
Now, we both had a couple ideas of how some steps maybe Cryptic could take to incentivize us.
Well, before we get into our own, I want to mention a few that we've already heard mentioned a lot.
Okay.
And this is basically, if you guys want to flesh these out in an email that you send to us, by all means, go ahead. If you have a great idea, go for it. But
absolutely,
these are the common ones. So we've already heard these, but I do want to mention them.
Yeah.
Territory. Now, this could possibly tie into PvP or even fleet versus fleet type skirmishes, battles, but a lot of people out there would like for some form of ownership of the universe.
Right, and that'd be a great, the fleet could own an area or something like that. And we've also heard a lot of people say, and we've also heard some insinuations that with the UGC engine that's being worked on, there could be fleet-owned bases that could be built.
Star bases.
We don't know any details on that yet.
Nope.
But a fleet-owned star base could be really cool, because you could do a lot of things like... well, that could be one way, you, aside from just being able to have a social area that you can build yourself, you could also do things like maybe there could be fleet-specific merchants in there or something like that.
Right.
I don't know. That's something some of you have mentioned. If you've got an idea in that area, feel free to stick it in an email and send it to STOked@jupiterbroadcasting.com, how you'd like to see that. Now, I'll just throw this out there. My idea to help drive up reasons to join a fleet would be some sort of fleet leveling system.
Like an advancement, a separate form of advancement for fleets?
Totally separate from your actual character progression.
We've seen this in other MMOs already to date. EQ2 is a good example, EverQuest 2.
Yeah.
Dungeons & Dragons Online just recently implemented this. So I've always thought it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think that even if there's not huge rewards for doing it, it gives you another incentive to do things with your buddies.
And first of all, you're just going to want to get that number to go up higher, that fleet level. But what... And now... This is a really rough idea, so don't jump down my throat. But what if that...
You'd have to have a very large throat.
What if that level was some sort of multiplier for something that made you a better player? Like maybe your engine speed would have a +5 if you had a level 5 fleet, something like that.
Yeah, cool. I think you'd have to walk a thin line there.
Yeah, you don't want to give somebody an advantage.
Exactly, because if you are in a level 10 fleet, let's say, and you go up against a level 20 fleet in PvP, you don't want to just get crushed by them outright. You would still want to have a fighting chance. In fact, I would even say that if something like this were ever implemented, it would have to completely stay away from game combat mechanics. Now, I could see economic mechanics being influenced by this.
Or what about like plus speed to your sector space travel?
Oh, sure, because that doesn't have anything to do with combat. I can see that.
I mean, something...
I would love that.
I know, right? Just something that makes the fleet be like, oh, I want to join a fleet so I can get this. Because I really think that would strengthen the community.
Yeah.
What about you? Anything that jumps out for...
Well, first of all, I want to say that I love your idea.
Oh,
and
yeah?
I'd actually rather see yours than mine. I think it's also a little bit easier to implement than mine. So,
oh, boy. Here we go.
My idea to make fleets more worthwhile and incentivize joining the better ones is well-made raid content.
Oh, sure.
including
which would mean probably larger group sizes too.
Including the ability to link groups together somehow for bigger fleet actions.
Yeah. That would be nice.
I'm going to go on record in saying that these special task forces we currently have in the game are not very good.
You're not a fan of those?
No, especially the ground combat portions, but space combat as well. I think they're improperly balanced, and I would like to see good content made for larger groups of people.
Something that drives the need to organize large groups.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think that's better than leveling. I think together too. Fleet leveling system with better raid content is really the secret sauce.
You could tie them together. You could have fleet raids be the only way you could level up.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So that's our ideas. But we'd love to hear what you guys think. Yeah. And we've already got the chat room. The chat room's rolling through some ideas here. So send those over to STOked@JupiterBroadcasting.com, and then we will feature those in the next week's episode, STOked 52.
We might give it 2 weeks.
Yeah,
just to get more comments. And,
that's true. And we'll probably have a pretty meaty episode. So we might give you 2 weeks, or we might maybe, depending on how much we've gotten, maybe we'll touch on a couple.
Yeah.
We'll see. Depends on how much how many great ideas you guys have.
It's a very organic experience.
There you have it. All right, everyone. Well, STOked comes out every Tuesday over at JupiterBroadcasting.com. And we sometimes shoot these live, like this very episode. Mm-hmm. If you want to find out when we're doing that, you can go over to JupiterBroadcasting.com/calendar.
Or you can check us out on Facebook.com/JupiterBroadcasting. We don't always get around to updating those. I think we failed to today, but we try. We try really hard.
I'm sorry. You know what it is? It's just that we get all excited. We sit down like this morning. I got in here. We got the game up. I was like, okay, let's go. And we forgot to do the Facebook.
We got so excited about the show.
I did put it on the calendar.
All right.
It was on the calendar.
All right.
So that's always a place to check out. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching this week's episode of STOked, and we'll see you next Tuesday.